Alright everyone, welcome to the third devlog for PocketAvery. In this devlog, we're going to be working on the pop-out panel. We're going to be working on the buttons to trigger the pop-out panel for inventory, stats, and upgrades, as well as the area selection button. Specifically, we're going to be doing a lot of work on the inventory. We're going to be creating the ability to feed Avery any food item from your inventory, as well as rearranging the items in your inventory. So there's going to be a lot of progress made in this devlog. So sit back, relax. I hope you guys enjoy the voiceovers and the progress in this video. So the first thing we're going to do here is create the component that's going to hold the buttons. And then we're going to import the button sprite, as well as the bag sprite. That's going to be the inventory button. So here I'm aligning the buttons to the bottom right and bottom left of the screen so that if the player eventually, I want to add support for expanding the window, then it'll stay to the bottom right and bottom left of the screen. Then we imported the bag button, and it turns out that the bag icon was way too large. So I went ahead and re-exported the button at the normal size. So once the bag button was imported and positioned, I decided to start working on the pop-out panel, having the window expand another 200 pixels below so that the inventory and the upgrade panel will be right there at the bottom of the game window. And that's when I realized that everything that I put into the home scene has a bottom left anchor. And so that obviously doesn't work. I don't want everything expanding downwards with the window. So I had to start a new project, a little new prototype, and figure out how to render the same scene but anchor everything to the top left of the screen so that the top part of the screen would just stay positioned where it is, and the bottom part could then be the inventory and the upgrade menu. And so I eventually figured out how to anchor everything to the top left off the recording, and you can see here that it's working now. And so I started making a new panel container component that's going to hold the actual sprite, and it's going to hold the inventory grid, and we'll go into more depth on the inventory. I don't really work too much on the upgrade system part of things, but I wanted to get the inventory system fully fleshed out. And so I went through a lot of trial and error trying to get the grid to be right. And so I cut a lot of that out of the video, but essentially what I did was I just created a grid that can adjust to the upgrades. As you upgrade your inventory, it will expand the grid. And I had to center that grid, so I had to figure out exactly how to anchor it to where it's centered no matter what the upgrade is. So whether you have 9, 12, 15, or 18 inventory spaces, it will always be centered in the panel at the bottom. So I then made an enumerator for panel type so I can pass that in whenever we open the panel. So there's inventory, stats, or upgrades. So that's essentially what's being passed in whenever we call the panel to open up. So the panel has to dynamically change to the button that you click. So if the panel is already open and you're on inventory and then you click upgrades, it's got to clear out the inventory and then overlay the upgrades panel, and vice versa. So if you're on upgrades, then it needs to clear out the upgrades and show you the inventory. And this part was giving me a lot of troubles because I didn't realize that every time I clicked on it, I was re-overlaying the panel on top. So the panel's background was constantly getting overlaid on top of the inventory. And so I struggled a lot for no reason on this part, just because of hindsight. I just didn't realize that I was messing up. So I decided to take a break and come back to it the following day. And that's when I figured out exactly what I was doing wrong. So I made a check to make sure that I'm not constantly overlaying the background on top of the inventory grid. And then it was just progress from that point on. Okay, so now we have the inventory working, and I can customize the size for the upgrade for the inventory. And then you'll be able to choose upgrades in this menu here. And I finally got it working after so long. So after that, I decided to import all of the sprites from a different prototype I made for how I was going to work on the items. So I imported a lot of the code over from that prototype, and I also created a mock-up inventory, which I changed a lot after the initial creation. Just so I could test out how to overlay the items into the grid. And this part turned out to actually be extremely easy and straightforward. In fact, here's my reaction when I got it working. Oh my god, dude, that was so easy. Oh my god, dude. Oh, I can't believe it. Let's go, dude. It's already centered. So after that, I worked on the quantities for each item. And once I had the quantities working, I think I stopped recording a lot of the actual programming side, but I did continue to record some snippets and progress updates. So we'll go into that from here. All right, so far this is what we have. Avery could still run around, do everything she gotta do, you know. We could grab an item and drop it. And that's kind of it. Let me change something really quick. So the next thing I'm working on is a check to see if it's dropped on Avery, because if it's dropped on Avery, then she's gonna get stamina, and you'll see the item will deplete. So 4, 3, 2, when it's at 1, it won't have a number. And if we finish it, we'll get an update on the inventory. Next thing I have to do is actually determine whether or not it was dropped on Avery, and then remove it from the stack, and then give her stamina. Wow. I tried so many different things and realized that the position of the item is relative to its current position here. So since it's in this bounding box, this is 0, 0 at the top left corner of the panel. But then I realized that the camera component contains this function, components at point. So I can put in the drop position vector and then say if it contains this, which is referring to Avery, because we're doing this in the Avery, check collision with Avery. So everything that I attempted to try out is summed up in that. Game.cameraComponent.contains, components at point of the drop position dot contains Avery. And if that is the case, then it works. We have a success. We can feed Avery. This is amazing. This is great. All right, so the next thing I want to do is determine whether or not I drop an item on top of another item and then move its position. It's like swap the items that I drop on top. So if I drop this cherry with the avocado, it should swap them. Okay, so I figured it out. If I feed Avery an item, or we could swap items around like this. If I feed her an item, we can have multiple stacks of the same item. If I feed her an item, say I feed her the stack of 5, it'll feed her out of the lowest stack instead. So like that. If I feed her with the same 5 and 5, it'll feed her out of the second stack. So the last stack is always the smallest stack. The problem I'm having is that I could swap these around in such a way that puts the 4 stack in front of the 5 stack. So I need to figure out how, once this swap has been completed, to readjust the quantities of the stack to allow the lower stack to be the last stack. All right, I figured it out. So if we move this, swap this with this becomes 5 and that's 1. And now if we do this, same thing. If we move this up here, it still fixes it. It swaps the items we want to swap and then readjusts the quantities so that the lowest one is always on the bottom and it'll always remove from the bottom of the stacks. So we could do this, and that's 4 now, that's 5. Feed a cherry, and now if we move the cherry, say that one there, and then we bring this one up to the front, that's 4 now. Alright, so that pretty much sums it up for this devlog. On the next one, we're going to be working on the upgrades on her stamina bar and sending her out to start exploring areas. If you are excited to see what's coming up for the game, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support, like and comment. Tell me what you like to see the most. Tell me what you can't wait to see for the game. And if you want to support even further, visit averythepig.com. Send that to somebody you think would like the game. And if you want to go the extra step and you want to support financially, there is patreon.com/KiroWaveGames starting at $2 a month, and you'll be getting a sticker for Avery in the mail. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, peace out.